Okay, guys, here we are. Panel number 2 on how to win in a high-end, low inventory market. And you can't hear me? Wow. I thought I'm super loud. And actually, I was in the back of the room a little while ago, so if you can hold the mic really close to your mouth so that everybody back there can hear, that would be great. So for starters, we'd just like to ask you to introduce yourself, a little bit about you and your business.
Hello, I'm Betsy Ronel with Global Banker, and one of the reasons I joined Global Banker is because of the Global Luxury Division. I live in Cambridge, New York, and I've been in this business just for 8 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Shelly Tretter Lynch, and I'm the founding member of the Greenwich and Connecticut offices of Compass. I was one of the first 3 people to come on board in Connecticut before I even knew what Compass was. There was so much tech, but it's been a fun ride, so I've been there for 8 years. Before that, I had been with Sotheby's International Realty.
Thank you.
My name is Melissa Leifer. I'm with Keller Williams in New York City. I've been doing this for 24 years, only in New York City. That's it.
You live in Brooklyn?
Yes, and I live in Brooklyn.
Hi, my name is Westfall-Kwong. I'm the co-founder of Upside Group, powered by Place and brokered by EXP. We've been in the business for 20 years. We primarily do business in the Northern Jersey. We have a strong presence in Short Hill, Summit, Chatham, and West Coast surrounding area. We have a team that's in business for 20 years. Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. So this question is for everybody on the panel. And unlike, I think, some references earlier, we are in a very low inventory market. I'm sure you can all agree. So, in this market, how do you position yourself to consistently convert leads into listings?
You really want to be an advisor. You don't want to say, do you want to sell your home? You really want to go deep, and as someone said earlier, you're a relationship business. And you have to have those deep conversations, know the timing, know the strategy, discuss strategy, what makes sense for the most. And you have to really listen to the needs. Not every single person will be the same. You cannot go into an appointment to think that I'm going to just get the listing the way I do it, just the same presentation, same conversation. You really need to know the profile. Everyone's different. You have someone who's a high D, you have someone who's a high I or high C. So you need to know your data. You really need to do your research. As someone said that, Steve just said that you go look at the social media to see who they are before you go to the appointment. Go to LinkedIn to making sure that you know where they work or who they know, and to see if you're friends with someone that they know. So you really need to do a lot more research, and you can win.
Can you please speak into the mic?
Absolutely.
I'm having trouble hearing back here.
Wow, I have to go louder than that?
I know. There
There
are some empty seats up front if anybody wants to come up and grab a couple. But we will do our best to speak louder. Melissa?
So everything that Simon said is spot on, and it's not even just your clients. You also need to listen to what the co-broker, especially if you're working with buyers, on the other end is telling you. Like literally, this just happened to me with a buyer of mine last night. Very competitive situation, and I really just, for lack of a better term, I know it's trite, I dug deep, and I really asked him, what are you looking for? Like, what's important to you? What are the sellers? Like, who were they? And he started telling me all this stuff, and he started giving me all this information about how he actually knew them. They were family friends, and he'd been growing up. He grew up essentially in this place. One of them was a very famous professor. So, one could deduce that, it was a very special apartment to him, so it's very important that the buyers understand that. So I had them write a letter and hitting all of those points and edited it, and and it worked. But you have to you kind of have to like do whatever you can in order to get your clients something. At least in our market right now.
Thank you. So my market is, different than a market in Manhattan, or where you're looking at floor plans, or there are precise ways to value properties. And the market is also in Greenwich, Connecticut, and all of Fairfield County. It's very protected. A lot of my clients and customers, I have to sign an NDA. Like, I cannot go on Instagram and say, oh my gosh, and I want to. I mean, that you're so excited for something that you did, but you can't. I probably could be the most interesting person at a dinner table, but I can't say anything that's not okay to talk about. And I think that discretion and that level of intimacy that you start to build with your clients is the key for you to find other properties. Whether it's through them, they're referring. I know I've been in the market for almost 30 years, and so I have a lot of relationships, and they grow, and some move out, some move in, but I do know about what people are doing if they tell me. And so there are a lot of off-market opportunities for the right situation, for the right person, and I've done a lot of off-market. So that's how I've worked it.
Excellent. Betsy, you want to take this and then, so just what are you doing different, special to work in this market?
So Bedford and Pound Ridge and Daytona is similar to Greenwich, a little lower price point, but still a luxury market overall. And for me, my business has been built on very personal relationships. I've only been in my area for 10 years. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, but I've lived elsewhere. Did not have kids in the school system. Just didn't have a whole sphere. So over the past 8 years, I dug in, to use that trite expression, hard to things that I really enjoy, things that matter to me, and so that my presence when I show up is authentic. People know if I'm playing, I don't, but if I was playing pickleball, they know I love pickleball. They know I'm there for the game, I'm there for the team, I'm there for the camaraderie, and that's how I make my relationships. They're authentic. Those people trust me. There's that saying that we all know, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's the way I try to operate my business. And I show up as me, in full glory every day, love it or leave it, and that is how I in turn leads into sales and continue to do that. It's a small, slow growth, but to me that's the only way I'm going to do it.
So Betsy, both you and Shelly mentioned this, but we're going to go into our next question. Betsy to start us off, and then Simon. And this is in fact about off-market deals and getting business through relationships. So you hit, both of you touched on it. Can you dive a little deeper for us?
So the kind of markets Shelly and I sell in, it is very personal. It's very relationship business. They need to know that you know how to keep a secret, that you're not out for yourself. Actually, you are just a conduit. I don't really think that either of us considers ourselves a salesperson. I consider myself an advisor. I'm sure Shelly does as well.
Absolutely. Betsy, we're advisors, we're not salespeople.
Yeah, oftentimes it's another way to label it.
Exactly. In fact, I went and got my associate broker's license because I hate the term salesperson in real estate so much. I have sold handbags and shoes in my 20s. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm an advisor and a guide. So off-market is all about the relationships and who you know. It doesn't mean that you're a fancy person. It could be your neighbor down the street. If you know them and you walk your dog every day and you see them on 123 Main Street, hey, how you doing? My grandma's sick. I'm thinking of moving down with her. That could then potentially be you rack your brain through your little Rolodex in your head. Who do I know? Sally Smith. She's looking for something and she doesn't want to deal with this. I might be able to match them up and get this lady faster to her grandma. So it's all about relationships, in my opinion, on the off-market deals.
Absolutely, I love that. We're going to jump to Simon, and then we'll start the next question right with you, Shelly.
So with off-market, it's definitely client choice. Sometimes we definitely do off-market listing, but definitely by kind of choice, because in today's market, you most likely would get higher dollar value, a higher net for your client. So you want to make sure that your client understands when you do off-market, what does it happen. Right. Some clients have special needs and that they want to be private. Absolutely want to go back. That's choice. And other than that, we definitely want to put up a market because your job is to be the advisor to make sure you get the highest net value as possible for your client, shortest amount of time. Right? And really be visible. And relationships not. I must get called, you guys must get called every day that from other agents saying, hey, do you have a listing coming up? Do you have a market coming up? Do you have something that's in the $5 million price range? Every day, right? It's your relationship with the code book is really important because you never know will someone have something that could fit match your client needs. So you really need to work with every single broker who does business in your territory and get to know them. Like make sure you go to the book open house. Go to, and again, don't just send your client to open houses. You need to go show the house, okay? Because you can't write up an offer for a $3+ million and just send a client to open house, and you don't know what you're looking at. That is not, you're not doing justice for your client. You're not justice for the outside person, and you want to make sure this deal with you. So.
Can I just say one thing, because this is something that how I felt over the years when you were mentioning calling people that you know and to network with the other agents. I feel like we all need to start with each other and to be nice to each other because buyers and brokers feel that. Sellers feel it. They've got cameras now, and they cannot believe the attitude between all of us. I mean, I'd rather put my head on my pillow at night and know that I did the right thing. It will catch up with you if you haven't. Just be kind to each other. You never know what someone's going through, and it just makes a big difference.
I appreciate you saying that, and that's why we're here today, right? Talk to the people that are next to you if you don't know them, and develop relationships, because when you're on the other side of the deal, it really helps. It makes a difference. So Shelly, we wanted to jump into a buyer question. When you're working with buyers in this market, I'm sure Connecticut is as busy and as limited inventory as we are here. So how do you help your buyers not get discouraged after they're beat out on 1, 2, 3, whatever highest?
So I guess we have to have a lot of internal fortitude to move forward just for ourselves because let's face it, it's a lot of work. This is not an easy business. It may be an easy business to have entry into, but to make a really good income, develop relationships, you have to have a lot of information at your fingertips all the time. And if you don't know it, say I don't know it. But I think with buyers to come in and strategize, I'm not just trying to help them find a house, I'm trying to help them put together an exit strategy. So, and in Greenwich and in Fairfield County, people, they're moving in and out, or there's a divorce, and a lot of people want to stay in the area. So you're helping them find a property the best you can through all of your intel and guiding them through that process and understanding what their strategy is so that if they lose it, they're not feeling like, oh my God, I didn't do the right thing. You're letting them know that they didn't pay X amount, which was $300,000 above their budget, and what that would cost them over a period of years. So I think when you just say all of that and set them up to know that before you put the offer in, that's probably the best thing that you could do for someone. And then engage them in other things in the community, especially if they're close by, that they might enjoy.
Thank you very much. I want to move over to Melissa, same question. But Melissa, because you're in New York, you're selling mostly apartments, not single-family homes. So just mention if you think there are differences in that market versus here, and are your buyers struggling to get a property?
Yes, so we have a very, very different market. We have something called co-ops, which you have a board of shareholders who will interview you and scrutinize every detail of your life, and then can determine and don't need to disclose whatever reason they reject you or if they don't want you in the building. So with buyers, in our market, you have to be unbelievably good at qualifying them financially, and then also kind of on a personality level to make sure that they're going to match the building that they want to live in. You know, if somebody is, they work very late, and there's a building that has a lot of kids in it, I don't necessarily know that the buyer's going to feel comfortable. I mean, they might, but just for an example, living in a building where everybody's like really quiet after 10 p.m. That's something that could come up. I did actually just have this situation with a buyer of mine who was unbelievably qualified and still could not find an apartment in Brooklyn. I mean, they were amazing. They're perfect to put in front of so many different boards. And what I did was, and I don't usually do this, but I wrote a letter to, they had very specific buildings they wanted to be in, so I wrote a letter to all of these buildings, and I talked about them, without mentioning their name and being as discreet and vague as possible. And I did get responses from people, and we're in contract on something now that I found for them from this letter that was amazing. And it turned out, the seller wanted to save some money, so didn't want to list it publicly, which was a huge mistake for him. But my clients got a great, great deal, and they didn't have to overpay or get into a bidding war. So, you can do that kind of stuff. And in the letter, I would write about how I know this building's board, and I know these people are going to go right through. So,
excellent. Thank you so
Add
much.
something to
Sure,
that.
of course.
So, based on what Shelly also said, that your relationship with the ad agent is so important when you send an offer. Because right now, currently, we're in a multiple offer situation, right? Everybody, today is a deadline for Tuesday for us in New Jersey. It's like best and final due on Tuesday, 10 a.m., 12, 2 p.m. I have to write 5 different offers last night and today, and I'll be back and forth on the phones. And talking to the co-broke agent is so important. Be visible, be communicative, because if you don't talk to them, you may not be in the top 3 position. If you're not in the top 3 position, you're not getting a second chance. So, and also making sure that you set expectation to your client, that if you are knowing that you go to against 8 to 10 offers, if you don't get it, find out where you are at, so your client understands what they need to do next. It is a progress, because they will not get the first house. You don't want them to win the first house either, because they may get cold feet. Okay, so it's gonna take 3 or 5 times. So just get used to it, writing up the offer. That's what's gonna happen. So
I'll take the first one.
I
I totally understand what you're saying. So I just want to say that this is a very challenging market that we're talking about, this low inventory, tons of buyer market. Is there anything about this market that you think is advantageous to you? And this is for everybody on the panel. So is there anything about the current market situation, and all of you I know have been in other markets, different types of markets. So what is it about this market that works for you?
I think this is a challenging market, and I think it's a really great way to show your stuff as an agent, how you can go to bat for your buyer clients. And like Shelly was saying, and Melissa was saying, and Simon, thank you. Simon was saying how everyone's saying you really want to advocate for your clients. Don't just send them to the open house on their own. It makes me sad when I know the broker and their clients there, and I will treat them, like they're my own client out of courtesy for my fellow broker, because I understand we're all busy. But really show up now in this challenging market when clients are getting depressed and dejected and hopeless and pulling out and coming back in. Show what you're made of, show how you dedicate yourself to your clients on the buy side. On the list side, show that you're advocating, that you're vetting all the offers, that you know the brokers, that you don't know the brokers, that you understand the type of situation, that you understand the perspective of the buyer and their real wants and needs, and are they really passionate about this particular house that you're listing with your client. So it's advantageous to us as individuals because the people that can stay through these challenging markets have the staying power to continue on. So show your stuff as best you can in this kind of market.
So this market is challenging. I always seem to do maybe a little bit better in a really challenging market because I feel like the person who's a relative, who's not very good and doesn't ever want to be very good, you know, they don't want that person anymore. They want someone who's professional. They want someone who, like, I love to do spreadsheets. I love to present information that is data-driven, that I can sit there and literally go over with a client, a customer or a client. And I think the market is so tight right now. I'm in it for the long haul. I always have been. And so I would never make a shortcut just to get a deal done. I just wouldn't do it. Your reputation is the only thing you have in this business, and you just want to you need to hold their hand, whatever that means. You know, I do a lot of charity work, and so if I'm co-chairing a gala or I'm on the board, I might buy a table and invite women to go that might want to meet each other. You know, just something so that there is a connection with everyone involved.
What I would say, for me at least this year, is the real advantage has been co-ops, and I know they get such a bad rap, and it's really not the case. However, what I can tell you is that last year in New York City, there were more board turndowns than there have ever been before. And that's just because agents don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to put together a package. They don't know how to match the person and the building and to make sure that they qualify. And that's on both ends, on the listing end and on the buyer end. So, you know, in terms of on the listing end, like I really am a crazy person to make sure that whoever that they go with, they're absolutely going to be 100% board passable. And if there's any doubts, you know, the seller needs to know that, like, straight up, so they don't get a board turned down, because you're off the market for maybe 6 months, but you're still paying for it, and then you have to go back on the market. I mean, it's, you know, it's a long, long time. On the buy end, though, you know, I can really sell myself to a lot of these co-brokers and say, you know, like, I know how to do this. Like, this is, you know, my board package is tight. I don't get rejections. You know, I've been doing it for a long time at this point anyway, so, you know, people know me, and, you know, they know what our packages look like.
I will add that I attended a class that Melissa had about putting together a board package. And for those of us that are in Westchester, you have never seen a board package until you see one in New York City, like 58 pages long, and Melissa really does know it inside and out. Simon, do you have a question?
I believe that you really need to be intentional in this market and focus on what you really want to gain out of this market. I work with a lot of sellers, so we having a really good time right now. But my agent partners who work with buyers is definitely having a difficult time because they're putting offers after offers and after offers. But I think at the same time, your relationship again key, not just to a client, but also agent. We have very high touch on with our client base, so we do a lot of client events, and that's really helping us be visible. And not just to a client, but also in the community. We also do a lot of charity work as well. And just that for people to know that you are there in that market, that you go service them in any capacity that you can.
Yeah. So. I also have seen some of Simon's charity events, and they're fabulous. I look forward to working with Shelly on something like that in the future. So last question, and we're a little tight on time, so I'm going to ask if you can just, briefly say that. So what skill, what mindset, let's talk about mindset just for a moment, do you think is pulling you through, and you guys have touched on it a little bit, but just in a word, what's the mindset that you need to have to survive in this market?
Well, I think you need to keep your head down and get yourself out of the cobwebs, because there's so much negativity, there's so much going on within the business itself. Just stay focused, know what's going on, but just keep it over here. Just keep your head down and move forward.
What you focus on expands, right?
And my one word is hope. Just keep hope alive, as they say, and just know that this too shall pass. If you're having a hard time, God knows I've had my ups and downs in my short 8 years, and you know, I've been like, why am I in this business? Why am I in this business? And the next morning, something amazing happens, and it reminded me of why I'm in this business. I think there's something wrong with all of us that we're actually in this business. We're a little weird, and we trauma bond a lot. But I think the majority of us really are all about our heart. We care deeply about our clients. People think we're like some greasy, salesperson. We're not. The people I know are outstanding. They care deeply about their clients' success over their own success. And you know how the buyer agency commission was, up for grabs and all that. The last question I've always asked, if I'm even asked at all, is, oh, by the way, what's the buyer agency commission? It just keep your hope alive, even on your worst days. I promise you, in one little way, the next day will be better. And just remember why you're in this business, for all the good reasons.
I would say, money comes, money goes, business comes, it goes. I know this sounds like a little Pollyanna, but I really do believe that if you really do right by your clients, and you really, you're really doing the right thing, that the money and the business, it'll all come. It just kind of like magically happens.
Magically delicious.
Yeah.
My one word would be ownership. Own it. So you don't just want to sit on the phone, wait for the phone to ring. Like, be that agent, be consistent, come up with strategy that's able to get you to the future pipelines, and business will come if you continue nurture your leads. It's a long-term game. It's not short-term. That if you're looking to do a quick business, quick sales, this is not the way to go. Today is relationship business. Today is client for life. So just think of that.
Thank you all so much. So insightful.